To the United Stand, this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Lots to talk about this morning. A potential debut delay for Cristiano Ronaldo. We'll be starting talking about that in a moment. Also, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer admitting that he was aware of the fans' want for a midfield, but his side of the story on that. What United are looking to do next in relation to the transfer market. Dan James has spoken about where it all went wrong for Manchester United. I don't know why I did a little laugh. Also, returns from injuries and a few other things to talk about as well. So make sure you get involved with the channel. Why is that playing there? We don't want that. And also, look, I've got my hoodie on. It's a little bit cooler this morning. It's going to be a hot day in the UK, but it's a little bit cooler. So I thought I'll put the hoodie on because I did get it yesterday. And you can get yours through the link in the video description. Very, very nice. Anyway, let's get into this Cristiano Ronaldo story. I mean, I woke up this morning, I was like, look, we had all the Donny stuff yesterday, the link to Tillemans and all that's very nice. But hold on a minute, Cristiano Ronaldo plays for Manchester United. Due back in training with Manchester United tomorrow. There was talk that he might train today. I mean, I wouldn't say that's out of the question, but I think it will be tomorrow. It appears he's had to do this isolation thing, which I'll never understand what that was all about. As we know, he meets Darren Fletcher in the airport on Friday, and Darren Fletcher goes and plays in Soccer Aid on Saturday night. What the fuck is this bloody isolation thing all about? But the story is coming from The Sun. Now, people are going to say this is a load of nonsense, but as I've said before, I would agree with you about The Sun, but they do have a journalist called Neil Custis, who's been a Manchester United correspondent for a very long time, and when he talks about United, I do tend to just give it a little bit of space and go, there might be something in this because he has been right about things before. What he is saying is that Ronaldo is likely to start on the bench on Saturday, that he will be unveiled to the crowd like Varane was, where he'll be marched out before the game and everyone will get to see him, but he won't start the game because he'll only have one training session with the team on Friday, and then he's more likely to start the game against the Swiss side a week today, which is the Champions League game. Now, look, don't shoot the messenger. I don't know whether that's a well-sourced story. I don't know whether it's 2 + 2 is 5, but I did say this when we bought him last week. I wouldn't be surprised if Solskjaer doesn't start him against Newcastle. Now, can I just say, I'm with everybody on this one. For me, Cristiano Ronaldo starts against Newcastle. No messing about. Lukaku came straight into the Chelsea side, and Lukaku ain't fit to lace the boots of Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi. These are two of the greatest players that's ever played the game. You don't buy Cristiano Ronaldo, who has had a pre-season and has played competitive football, and say, I'm not starting you because you've had one training session. It's bloody ridiculous if that happens. This is like, we're not asking Cristiano Ronaldo to learn the script of a leading role in a Scorsese film. And what I mean by that is the tactics. It's not like he's playing for Pep. He's playing for Ole and Man United. The way we play tactically, as I said, it ain't War and Peace. You ain't gonna read a book. It's spot the dog. It's very easy. The way we play football, get in the box, Cristiano Ronaldo, and we'll try and make chances for you. It's not rocket science. He's only going to train with the team once. So bloody what? He's Cristiano Ronaldo. What? I don't even know what to say if that happens, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen. I wouldn't be surprised if United went, bringing Varane on the pitch was a great idea before that game against Leeds. Let's do it again with Ronaldo against Newcastle. And we probably will beat Newcastle without Ronaldo. I mean, Cavani's probably trained really, really well. But I don't know. Look, we're talking hypothetical here, but imagine the team news comes out on Saturday afternoon and he's on the bench. My reaction will be, I don't understand what we're doing. I don't understand what this is all about. We're not playing FIFA career mode. We're not playing Football Manager. He's the greatest player in the Premier League, and he's fit and he's ready to go. As for only training once with your teammates, even if Ronaldo was training now, he'd only get one training session with Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire and a few others, because England are playing Poland tomorrow night in Poland. So Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, they're not going to be training with United until Friday. It wouldn't matter if Ronaldo started training last Friday. He'd still only have one training session with the team. So I don't get that. For me, Cristiano Ronaldo has to start. George says, I love the hoodie. Where can I buy it? Links in the video description, mate. Well, it should be anyway. So look, there is a chance that he'll start on the bench. Of course there is, but and there's a story about it. And the story is that he will walk on the pitch before the game and be unveiled to the fans, and the fans will love it, and then he'll start on the bench. And it's like, I can see that happening. You know what? I said it when we bought him. I can see it happening because Ollie does things that we never expect. But for me, and I'm sure for most people, he's got to start. Look, he's had a pre-season. He played a little bit for Juventus off the bench. He played 90 minutes against Ireland. He's been training. He will train this week. I don't know why Man United have started doing this thing with new signings where, well, they've got to train with the first team for at least 2 weeks before they can start a game, like we did with Varane. It's like, these are some of the world's best players. They're ready to go. And as we've seen with other clubs, they buy a player and they go straight in. So no, I think Ronaldo needs to start. I hope he will start. I think he will start, but ultimately there's no guarantee. And look, that story's there that he'll only have one training session. I think it's a bit. I hope it's a bit of a sensation, this story. Hi Mark, can you rely on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to start Ronaldo on the bench? Hashtag free Donny Sue, says Mac Daddy. We'll just have to wait and see. But I know he's fit. We know he's the best player in the league. We know we need to win. And to me, it just feels like, as I said, I'd start Ronaldo, I'd start Donny in this game, I'd put Pogba on the left, I'd go and win the game. We will win the game if he doesn't start Donny, and we will win the game if he doesn't start Ronaldo. But, I think that it's the perfect game for Ronaldo to start off in. Let's get up and running, let's go and win the game. And I hope that he does start, but I'm just dropping it out there that there is a story that there may be a debut delay. He might come off the bench, he might be unveiled on the pitch, which I'm sure he will be. I mean, I personally think we're going to get a third announcement anyway. I think he'll be doing some filming work tomorrow at Old Trafford after he's trained, and there'll be some reveal video anyway. I mean, why not? So yeah, let's wait and see what happens with Cristiano on that. The next thing I want to talk to you about is that this is coming from Rob Dawson, ESPN journalist. He's saying that Ronaldo will start training tomorrow, which is Wednesday, and has been training at home over the last few days, which he will do. I mean, God, he doesn't sit at home having a KFC chicken bucket, does he, and watching Netflix with a body like that. He's training at home regardless of anything anyway. So Ronaldo's fitness levels we don't need to worry about. And as I said, I think that, just to go back on this a moment, to say that Ronaldo can't start the game against Newcastle because they've only had one training session with the team. He's a number 9. It's the one position in the team that you don't really need to train with the team that much. And ultimately, why does he need to train with Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire? If they put decent crosses in, he'll get on the end of it. We saw it with Lukaku. We went straight into the Chelsea side. As a striker, it's the one position where actually you can just go straight into the team because your job's to score goals. And people will put crosses in, people will put balls in. That's going to take a few weeks for him to get used to how people put crosses in anyway. So the sooner you start, the better. What will be Ollie's thoughts on the Donny interview, says S. Ahmed. Well, we spoke about that on the show last night. Lots of things have come out about Donny van der Beek over the last week and a half. Obviously, his interview with Rio yesterday, but also his agent's been talking for the last week. Personally, I don't think Solskjaer will be happy with it because I think it undermines him. But I would hope that Solskjaer sees why he's done it and actually respects why he's done it. I mean, look, Paul Pogba did something with Mino Raiola, and it did Pogba a lot of good. He ended up playing a lot of games, and there was a real professionalism there. So it could go that way. I hope it goes that way. That's what I was thinking about this morning, is that, yeah, I'm sure Solskjaer doesn't like it when players publicly sort of undermine him. I mean, it wasn't a horrible way of undermining him, but he's speaking facts, wasn't he? Donny decided to wake up and speak facts, basically. So I hope Ollie takes it in the way that it was meant. He wants to play, he believes he's good enough to play, and he thinks he can be a solution in an area where we're weak. So hopefully Ollie takes it on board. But, some managers won't. Let's wait and see. Sticking with that Rob Dawson article, actually, from the ESPN, he's talking about Ronaldo training. He also said Manchester United's priorities now, their next two transfer priorities are a striker and a midfielder. And also added that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Ed Woodward were fully aware of the clamour from United fans to bring a midfielder in this summer that's just gone, but their priority was always a right winger and a centre-back, and a midfielder was not the priority, therefore they didn't go for it. It will be a priority next summer, and names such as Declan Rice have been mentioned, but they know they'll need more options than that because it's not a guarantee they'll be able to get Declan Rice from West Ham. Sorry to go off topic, but Donny's English is better than Harry Kane, says Mac Daddy. And Ollie surely did not like the interview from Donny. Well, yeah, Joe, I agree with you. He wouldn't like the interview, but he wouldn't have liked what Mino Raiola said the night before we got knocked out of the Champions League by RB Leipzig. That was massively undermining of the manager. He basically said he was shit, Raiola did. So, and yet Paul Pogba was playing for United pretty much straight after that and all the way through to the end of the season. So, is Ollie somebody that bears a grudge as a player? No, I don't think. As a manager, no, I don't think he is. Hopefully it can do. Look, if Donny starts on Saturday, everybody's a winner. I think Ollie will be a winner. If he doesn't start on Saturday, then nothing's changed, has it? So I don't think it can do him any harm. I really don't. But I don't think it can do any further harm, is what I would say. On the midfield situation, it's interesting, though, that has come out about that, because I do think that, from what I've been told, and we've spoken about it on this channel quite a lot, the priority for United this summer, the high priority signings were Jadon Sancho and Raphael Varane. And we all wanted a midfielder, and we spent a lot of time talking about a midfielder. And I actually said back in May that for me, this summer transfer window would be judged upon whether we brought a midfielder in or not. And if we don't bring one in, then for me, it's not the summer it could have been, which sounds amazing when you've got Varane and Ronaldo and Sancho as your signings. But it would have been priority number one for me. The priority for me was a CDM, and the second priority was a centre-back. I don't know what your thoughts were. I don't know how you thought about it. So to me, we didn't bring the right priorities in. But for Ollie and the club, their priorities clearly were centre-back and a right winger. We go with what we've got. We were talking about this on the Sunday night show. We can all have our own opinions about what team we would pick and what signings we would make. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the manager of Manchester United. He's finished third and second. He's took us to a final. He's now got people like Varane and Sancho and Ronaldo in the club, added to the likes of Pogba, Bruno, Luke Shaw and all the other good players we've got. So, he's happy with what he's got. He's happy with that midfield. He's happy with what he's got. He's got to deliver with what he's got. We can have our, reservations about whether that midfield is good enough or not. But, he has to go and do that. And I would just say as well, look, I like Jadon Sancho, but I almost feel like he's periphery at the moment. And I think that's good for him because I don't think the pressure's there. But when I think about United, it takes me a moment to remember Sancho. Now, that's not a bad thing for Sancho because he's a fantastic player and he's a fantastic talent and I think he'll be really good at United. But obviously, I think about Ronaldo first because he is an amazing player and I think he's going to be, I just can't wait to see him playing for United. And I think about Varane second because I think he's world class in what he does in an area where we needed somebody there. And then third, I think about Sancho. That's not disrespecting Sancho. I'm starting off with the world's greatest player and then with Messi, obviously. And then I'm going to one of the world's best centre-backs. And then I'm going to a very exciting, potentially world-class right winger. What I would say about that is, and I always wanted us to buy Sancho, and I think he's a very good player. But to be honest with you, 74 million, I would have bought a midfielder. I'm just going to say it. I would have bought a midfielder. And I know that means we don't get Sancho. And I like Sancho. I'm not saying he's a bad player. That's not what I'm saying. I like him. But I think that if I'd have been manager, I would have spent that money on a midfielder before I'd have spent it on a winger. And the reason I would have done that is that when you look at it, Mason Greenwood is probably going to play off the right more now because we've got Cavani and Ronaldo up front. Lingard has stayed at the club. He can do a job off the right-hand side if Greenwood's not going to play. But I think Greenwood's ready to start most games. So I think for this year, Greenwood could have done the job there. And what I'm saying is I'm very happy we've got Sancho. And I think he offers us something that none of our wide players do, the ability to create. And that's going to be very important when you've got Cavani and Ronaldo. But if you're asking me, could we have done without Sancho or could we have done without a midfielder? Well, we're going to do without a midfielder, but I think that CDM was more important than getting a right winger in. I wanted both, but if I had to choose between the two, I would have gone with the holding midfielder. But Ollie's gone with the winger and he's gone with the centre-back. So look, he's happy with what he's got in that midfield. Let's hope he's right. Call the bluff and play him as a number 6. Then Donny van de Beek can show him what he has. Thoughts, says Cam? Yeah, I mean, look, the debate rages on about this, but it's very clear what was said. I don't think in any way Donny van de Beek is saying Ollie needs to play me as a number 6. I'm the best number 6 the club's got. I personally don't think he's a 6. I think he's an 8. I'd be intrigued to see him given a chance at 6, but we're only talking about that because Donny's words himself. I don't think he's a number 6. I don't think he's even saying he wants to play as a number 6. What he actually said is that, what's his best position at Manchester United? And he basically said that, it depends on the team that you're playing for, but at Manchester United, my best position is 6 or 8. I'd love him to be given a chance in that position. If he thinks he can play it, I'd love him to be given a chance. But I don't think he's saying pick me at number 6. I personally think he'd ideally like to play at the 8 because he's he is a player that's got really good attacking tendencies. But I'd like him to be given a job at 6, but I don't. Yeah, I agree. This is not Donny saying play me at number 6. I'm the best number 6 in the club. I think it's just saying that he believes he can do that job there. And do I think Solskjaer will ever play him as a number 6? No, I don't. I think Solskjaer thinks it's. I mean, look, I saw this today, and let's bring this in. Very interesting, actually. I think we're in for a very interesting next few weeks. As I said, we've got Newcastle on Saturday, then we've got the Swiss side, then we've got West Ham in the league, then we've got West Ham in the Carabao Cup midweek, and then I think we've got Villa at home, and then we've got Atalanta, and then we've got Everton before the next international break. All those games are winnable. I would expect to win every single one of those games. Priority being to win all of the Premier League games, of course. But the interesting thing, there's a lot of games there. And there's an opportunity for a lot of rotation. I agree, mate. Midfielder was way more important. My gut tells me Sancho will not settle at United. Not much to go on so far, but I don't see it, says Gary. I think Sancho will be a fantastic player for Manchester United. I just think he's, was he more of a priority than the midfielder? And I don't think it was. Is Donny a better 6 than Fred, Mark, says S. Ahmed. Well, that's what I would say, because rotation-wise, I don't know whether anyone saw it. McTominay was back in training yesterday. Telles is back in training. Dean Henderson is back in training. They're 3 players that when you use them as an example, we know Dean Henderson's going to start either against Newcastle or the Swiss side. I don't agree with it. I think De Gea should have that nailed down and he deserves it. But we know Ollie's going to rotate the goalkeepers again. Telles. Now, will he rotate Luke Shaw? Telles gets back. Will he rotate Shaw? McTominay. Does he go straight in at number 6 for the weekend game against Newcastle? These are big questions. We talk about Donny, we talk about Cavani, we talk about Lingard, and it's all relevant. There's a massive squad of players there. Massive. Over 20 players that would expect to be getting some game time this year. And realistically, last year, Ollie only used 13 or 14 players in the most intense short season we'll ever have. So what's he going to do with a more spaced out season with a bigger squad to keep happy? And I think the rotation is going to be really key over the next few weeks. But going back to that number 6 thing, do I think Donny's a better number 6 than Fred? On recent form, I think I'm a better number 6 than Fred. I actually can control the ball and pass it. Fred's playing atrociously badly at the moment. And I think there's a player in Fred. I'm not naive to the fact that I remember just before COVID, Fred was playing bloody brilliant in that midfield with Matic. But obviously Matic was the 6 and Fred would have been a support act. As a lone 6 with people like Pogba wanting to get forward, I think Fred's out of his depth. I really, really do. But I also would say, I don't know where this has come from. I understand that McTominay is a very popular player and I understand why, because he's come through the youth setup. He always gives 100%. Loves playing for United, and I think you always want those players to be successful. Am I convinced by him yet? No, I don't know why I have to be convinced by him. You can predict he's going to be a good player. Well done, you predicted it. But based on the evidence, a handful of good games last season, and I saw somebody on Twitter say this. McTominay's the sort of player. In 5 games, he has 1 really good game, 3 average games, and 1 Fred game. And that's probably about right. Does he consistently perform at the levels that, and Paul Ince said this, when you play for Man United, okay performances aren't good enough. Why are we letting our standards drop? So, and I say the same about Fred and Matic and McTominay a lot. The consistency of performance is of what you expect of a United player is not there. And I think it's dangerous as well because Fred's been so bad. It's almost over the last 2 weeks. I don't know whether you've noticed it. People have sort of reinvented the wheel. And now McTominay's the best holding midfielder we've got. Based on no evidence. He's never had a good game as a holding midfielder. I think Watford is the best game I can remember him playing in the midfield. Against Leeds, which is his 2 best performances in the last year, he was basically getting into the box. He was playing in as an 8. So my thing with McTominay is I think he could be a really good... I'd never sell him. I think he's a brilliant player to have around. Loads of people have mentioned before, can he be that sort of Darren Fletcher sort of player? Who was a bit of a bench player but did play first team as well. As an 8, yeah, but I don't know what... It's almost like it's a magic act. Like people are now trying to convince us that he's a number 6. Now maybe he's going to be a 6, but every time I've seen McTominay play, well, he's an 8. So... going back to it, I would like to see Donny given a chance there because I don't think he's any less suitable to that role than Fred or McTominay. Matic is the best one we've got. I think we just all agree that he's past it now. So, my issue with McTominay as a holding midfielder is that silly little pivot he does, where he puts his foot on the ball and twists and goes the other way to pass it sideways. Or his little jump into a tackle instead of just getting into the tackle. If you could speed up his passing and get into the tackle more, there'd be 2 attributes that would make him a better 6. But I think he's an 8. I think his picking up of the players is more of a number 8. As a number 8, you don't have to be shit hot at defending. And basically, I'm not convinced McTominay picks up the runners or gets into the tackle quick enough. But I certainly think I can see why people say give him a chance over Fred, because I do think Fred needs dropping. But what I would say is maybe we should be giving Donny a go in that role. The first thing Donny said in that interview is that he started off as a number 6. He was moved forward by one of the coaches at Ajax, says Jake Morgan. I don't think Greenwood is a strong winger, says Marcus Lard, compared to Sancho. Greenwood is too greedy, which is not a bad trait as a striker, but not great if your role is to cross. And I think you're right there, Marcus. I think that's exactly why Ollie brought Sancho in, because he needs a wide player that can create. And if you're playing Greenwood and Rashford, they're both wide forwards, and that doesn't help your number 9. And we've seen that before. One of the positives of putting Pogba on the left-hand side was that we started to create much more for Cavani when we had Pogba on the left and Bruno, because they're creators, than we did with Rashford and Greenwood. So you're right. That's why we probably did bring Sancho in. In fact, that's why we did. Mark, if Greenwood doesn't get much game time now, we have Sancho and Ronaldo. Do you think he should push for a loan in January? Says Demon. And Lee Golding says, I think we should give Jones a chance in midfield. He has played there before and thought he played quite well. Should we go back to the previous comment about Greenwood going on loan? Because I think that, as preposterous as that is, it can never be as bad as that comment we've just read. I would suggest wiping your memory on that Phil Jones comment there. Lee needs to do better. Right, let's go back. Will Mason Greenwood go on loan in January? Absolutely no chance. The one thing I would say about Ollie is I don't think we're going to see much youth development this year at all. I don't think that he will. I don't think his youth development has actually been as good as people think it is. He's given a lot of debuts, but actually when you look at the substance of what came after those debuts, there's not really been much persistence or development of youth, apart from Mason Greenwood. Mason Greenwood is a generational talent, fantastic player in my opinion, and I think Ollie knows this. And I think Ollie knows that this is a player that can win him a game. And a lot of fans say that Ollie's tactics aren't very good. He relies on a strong defence and individualism to win a game. And, maybe there's some truth in that. If there is truth in that, Ollie knows that Mason Greenwood's the sort of player when you're playing crap and it's 0-0 with 10 minutes to go, he gets it on the edge of the box, he shoots through someone's legs into the bottom corner, he's won you the game. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer values that. I think Solskjaer sees a bit of him in him, that ability to finish from difficult positions. I don't think Mason Greenwood will be going on loan from Manchester United. I don't think he'll ever go on loan. In fact, I'm happy to say right here, right now, Mason Greenwood will never, ever go on loan from Manchester United. He is a first-team player who is going to be struggling to start every game because of his youth. I think it makes him easier to bench because he's 19. Mason, you're on the bench, you're 19. But on the other hand, I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer trusts him, rates him, the squad do. He's a first-team player, and he will play a lot. He might not start a lot, but he will play a lot. We would never loan him. As we stand, we should play Matic, Donny in the Premier League or the Champions League for 60 minutes. After 60 minutes, we can try Fred on a CDM role. We should think tactically on what we have now, says Sapatashi. And you've seen Mason Greenwood talking about you, Mark, watching from New Zealand, says Will. I presume you're talking about a very old clip, Will. Mark, I have seen it, yeah. Mark, you should do another most goals and assists with the United stand lot. Now we have Ronaldo in the team, says Regshin. Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. This season, we'll see Ollie going all out for a trophy or two to give the youngsters a feel for it. Next season, we will see a transition to a youthful team, says Sam Brox. Interesting from Sam there. Right, what's next on the agenda? So I did want to just bring this in about Dan James very, very quickly, because just because a player is gone from the club doesn't mean that they are forgotten, and you can also learn some things about it. Now, quite interestingly, Dan James has been speaking about his time at Manchester United, and what he said is, I was brought to Manchester United to be that direct player who just gets his head down, runs at someone, gets a shot off or puts a cross in. That's what I was brought to do. And in my time at the club, I stopped doing it. I started playing safe. I started looking at what other players were doing, and I stopped doing what I was there to do. And I think he's, Dan James is gone. We've got good money for him, but I think he's probably right there. He is probably right. When I think about Dan James, by the end of it, I don't think anybody, even the player himself, could sit there and say it's any surprise that we sold him. But when we bought him into the club, and I think, 2 years, Dan James, 15 million from Swansea. It was an experiment. It didn't work. We doubled our money. I don't think you can say it was a failure on anybody's part. I just think it was a risk. It was a risk worth taking. Financially, it's not often that a risk that doesn't work out that you make money on. We've made money on him. We've shown that he's a Premier League player. He's not a Championship player. He's just not a top 4 player. We've doubled our money. He's shown his potential. He's just not a top 4 player. And it's quite honest from Dan to assess his time here and say, look, I lost what I was about. Really, I'm a player who needs to just get his head down, run, direct, get the shot off, get the cross in. And at United, I started to overthink it. I started to play a bit safe. But actually, I think there's a bigger picture here that we spoke about ourselves many times. Dan himself might feel like, he lost what he was about. I don't think he necessarily did. I think the fact is, when he got the ball at United, there wasn't the space to run into. Because when you play for United, there isn't that space. You're playing against the low block. If Dan James tries and sprints past the low block, it's a goal kick. So I think that he had to adapt his natural game, and it didn't suit us. 1 or 2 games a season, Dan James suited us. Funnily enough, against Leeds, who play wide open with lots of space. Sometimes against Man City on the break, he worked quite well. He had a very specific set of tools, but it was a very limited set of tools at a club like United, where 90% of the season you're playing against teams that will play a low block. So I think that Dan James just didn't suit Manchester United, and ultimately it's quite refreshing that he looks at that. And I look forward to seeing what Dan James does at Leeds. I don't think anybody would wish him any harm career-wise, even though he is going to Leeds, because I think that, as I said, I think it worked well. I don't think he can look at his time at United and have any regrets. He's almost hitting the nail on the head. His style of play doesn't suit a top 4 club. It doesn't. You've got to have a little bit more to your game than kick and run and put a shot in against the low block. So, which is also why I think let's be fair, it's not just about Dan James here. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Donny over this season. I think it's going to be very interesting to what happens with Fred. This could be Fred's last year. You can't be a top 4 player if you can't pass and control the ball. And too often with Fred, his second touch is a tackle. It bounces off him and he goes to get it and it's a tackle. And that, it's only fair that you distribute the feedback around. You can't just say Phil Jones is crap, Lindelof's not good enough. Fred's got to improve massively as well. Dan James has left the club because he didn't have the attributes required to play against the low block. Jesse Lingard's another one. I've said this about Lingard many times. I think when I see Lingard do well, look at it at the weekend, look at him for West Ham. Lingard does well when he can spin and run into space. If he can spin into run into space, he's a very dangerous player. How often do you get to spin and run into space for Manchester United? Not very often. So does Lingard really suit United, that he's going to force his way into the team ahead of people like Sancho and Bruno and Pogba, who actually can play against low blocks and are used to doing it? That's going to be very interesting as well. He's going to have to adapt his game. Spinning into space, brilliant, but we don't spin into space much. So what more can you do? And that's going to be the challenge for a lot of these players. Alex Telles, fantastic crosser of the ball, but can you get back and forward, like Luke Shaw can, and defend like Luke Shaw can? I would argue that Telles' ball delivery probably is better than Luke Shaw, but it's the all-over game. All over game. I think the reason we have such a big squad is so that at the end of the year we sell quite a few players and we have the war chest to go for Haaland and Rice as Cam. Interesting, Cam. Do you not look at United, what we did last summer? We are shit at selling players, so I wouldn't bet on that, to be honest with you. Interestingly, we spoke about that. Direct play to safe. Spoke about Dan James as well. Interesting, actually. I don't know whether anyone else picked up on this from the Donny van der Beek interview with Rio Ferdinand as well. But he also spoke. He was also asked about who the best players are at Manchester United, and he did mention Luke Shaw. He mentioned Luke Shaw and Cavani, but I think, and I don't know whether anyone saw the interview that Luke Shaw did while he's been away with England as well. He was asked about Mason Greenwood, said what a fantastic player he is, but was almost asked if he fears playing against him, and he said, honestly, no. In fact, if you speak to Mason, he hates being paired up against me in training. And I think this just shows the development of Luke Shaw. I mean, I've always been a big fan of Luke Shaw, and I know some of you have. I also know some of you haven't, and I also know there are people out there who, on social media, are very derogatory to Luke Shaw, and have had to take a big, comfy sit down now, because it's almost like they're waiting for him to make a mistake so they can say, I told you so. But you can't say I told you so. He's been one of the best left-backs for over a year now. So, yeah, he'll have a bad performance at some point. Everybody does. But he's proved himself to be one of the best left-backs in the world. But it's interesting. I find that insight quite interesting, because when Luke Shaw's asked about, what's it like coming up against Mason Greenwood in training? Is it difficult? And he says, to be honest, no. Ask Mason. He hates playing against me in training. Now, that doesn't mean that Luke Shaw's pocketing Mason Greenwood in training. Mason Greenwood's a fantastic player. But it just shows you how good Luke Shaw is. You don't get much change out of Luke Shaw defensively. He's so good defensively. I think his energy levels at getting forward and back and forward, he's like a yo-yo. He's amazing. And his crossing has improved massively. I mean, he had another assist for England at the weekend, didn't he? With Harry Maguire scoring. That was actually not the weekend. That was against Hungary, so better opposition. But defensively, I think he's fantastic. And I like to hear that about a left-back or a full-back or a centre-back, is that, Mason Greenwood, this, scintillating young talent that we have, doesn't like being against Luke Shaw in training. So it just shows you what Luke Shaw's positional sense is elite. His defensive capabilities are elite. I mean, he can play centre-back as well. So it's just, I think Luke Shaw's has had a bit of a slow start to the season. I think Harry Maguire's had a slow start to the season. But those two players have probably had a slow start to the season because of what happened with England. Late tournament, not much of a holiday, straight into pre-season. But I think what I'm really excited about over these next 3 or 4 weeks is I feel that and I don't know whether anyone else agrees, but I feel that the Leeds, Southampton, Wolves games were pre-season games. And to be fair, Ollie said it himself and people didn't like it, but he's right. They're competitive and you need to win, but it doesn't matter how much you dress them up. They are pre-season games because they're your first competitive games and people need to get into the rhythm. And I think that these players who've been away on international duty as well, like Luke and Harry, I think they're going to come back from Newcastle and be back where they were. I don't think they were quite where they needed to be in them first few games, but I think now the wheels are starting to turn and they're starting to get back. And, we know what... I don't think Luke Shaw's going to drop off for a couple of years unless he gets injured, and hopefully he doesn't. I think he's in his prime at the moment, and I think that defence is going to be very, very hard to infiltrate. De Gea's looking fantastic. Varane, as we know, Maguire and Shaw. And I think Wan-Bissaka's going to get better as well. Got a fantastic back five. I thought Sancho is just as important because all our attack was through the left and teams learned to gang up there, says Prashna. And my lord, that hoodie, great stuff. Getting one of those sent to Melbourne ASAP. Viva Ronaldo, says Andre Mateus. Yeah, well, I'm glad that I can show it off for you this morning because later on I won't be able to because it'll be too hot. But this morning it's warm enough and it's cool enough so I can wear it. And God, do I look cool. But yeah, we do ship worldwide. Links in the video description. I mean, I've been wearing these style of hoodies for a while because we've got the blue Give It one, and they are very comfy. And obviously, it may be hot today, but we are going to move into cooler times. So if you want to get one, links in the video description for that. Somebody just said, what's the story with Ronaldo? So yeah, there is this story this morning in the UK that Ronaldo may not start against Newcastle at the weekend. The reason being that United want to parade him on the pitch before the game, and also that he'll only have had one training session with the team. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. We saw it happen with Varane, of course, but it's different to Varane. It's a striker. It's the world's best striker. He's actually had a pre-season. He's actually played games and he's actually fit. There is no justification not to start Ronaldo on Saturday, other than some weird let's ease him in. There is no justification not to start him, and I'd be disappointed if we don't start him. I think we are not in a position where we can be that club that takes its time over things. We haven't got time to lose. We're trying. We've not won a title in nearly 10 years. We ain't got time to be integrating and this, that and the other. We've got to start sending the message out. We've got to start playing. And the sooner Ronaldo starts playing, the sooner he gets used to United and the sooner we get used to him in relation to players. And also, Newcastle's an opportunity. That's 3 points. I don't care if you play Phil Jones up front. That's 3 points. We're not going to lose that game, are we? So get him in. Get him scoring. That's what we need to do with Cristiano, and I'd be very disappointed if he doesn't start because I don't see the justification in not doing it. But look, would it surprise me if he didn't? No, it wouldn't. What do you think of Lindelof as a CDM, Van der Beek as a box to box, and then Pogba and Bruno? You know what, Mdeg? Start with the Lindelof as CDM, says Sam Brox. Yeah, I know people say it, and a lot of it's about having a laugh, and I get that. But on a serious level. Stop putting Phil Jones as a CDM. Stop putting Lindelof as a CDM. Stop putting Bailly as a CDM. Stop putting Wan-Bissaka as a CDM. Luke Shaw, Tellez, whatever theory you've got, stop doing it. You're wasting your time and you're wasting your brain space. Do you want to know why? Because you're talking like me. I think we should have bought a midfielder in the summer. I think it should have been a high priority. So I look at that midfield and I see a big hole. And I think, how do we fill that hole? And that's why you're going, let's play Lindelof there. Our manager is in charge of this football club. His name is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And he's not bothered about the midfield. And what I mean by that is he doesn't see a hole there. He could have bought a holding midfielder. He bought Sancho and Varane. He's happy with what he's got. He's not thinking about putting Lindelof into the midfield because he's happy with what he's got. The reason you're putting Lindelof in as a midfielder is because you're trying to think, I need to find somebody there who can do a job better than the crap that we've got. But Ollie's not looking at that. Ollie's happy with what he's got. So whether it's Matic, Fred, McTominay, hopefully we'll give Donny a go. He's happy with those solutions. So you're never going to see Lindelof playing as a holding midfielder. You're never going to see Wan-Bissaka or whatever other weird theory you've got. It's not going to happen. You're just wasting your time. As for me, would I play Lindelof as a holding midfielder? No, I don't think he's a holding midfielder. I don't. But we won't see it anyway. We won't see it. Mark, can you do a video on how the players out on loan are getting on? This is Gareth. I'd have to do some research on it first because I've paid no attention, to be honest with you. It was such a hectic start to the season, wasn't it, with the transfer window, and now we've just had a bit of an international break. So yeah, I'll start having a look at that and we'll start bringing it in. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you do smash a like on the video. You can do that by doing that. What's happening right there below you. And if you want to get your hoodie, links in the video description. You can do that. We do ship worldwide, like I say. Lots of other merch. You can get your mugs and everything like that. I hope you have a fantastic day. We are live at 8 o'clock tonight as per usual. And we've got a 2 o'clock show today as well. So make sure you tune in for that. And yeah, have a good day. Let's see what happens. Speak to you all in a bit.